I just
Oh,
realized.
wow. Just
Wow.
look at that. Look at that. Oh, no, no. All of those stock has gone on.
I see.
Okay. Okay.
Ah,
Uh,
there was a lot of introspection in that talk. If you get to be
right.
recorded.
Ah, I can't remember the details anymore. Okay. I
Wow.
guess what I would do is that I'll probably we'll just get started now. And wait, who is Sheldon? Sheldon, there's a Sheldon here.
It's
Sheldon,
me that I want to join with my laptop here. I want to use my laptop instead.
Okay. So I guess what I'll do is we'll just continue like this. I've given a lot of talk about it already. And maybe after the class I'll make another short something to try to then append it or something. But for now, let's just continue. Let's not waste any time. I have something important I want to talk to you guys about after we're done with the review. So I'm just going to, without wasting much time, we begin. Let's start. There we go. All right. So first of all, let's start with the BMI calculator. That's kind of pretty straightforward. I think everybody did it. It's the simplest part of the code. Although I think Smith he took a very different approach. I'm going to ask you guys something. When Smith submitted his assignments, this is how it was. Now, it's not here, I would have asked it directly, but I wanted you guys to guess. What do you think happened here that his code looks like this? Obviously, this part is unconventional. What do you think happened that his code looks like this? Don't be shy. An answer if you know the answer.
Are you talking about the first 3 lines?
Well, yeah, precisely.
Yeah, I think he did not create a new shell.
Precisely. He did not create a new script. He wrote his code in idle shell. And so when he wrote his code in idle shell, basically, if you notice, the first 3 lines is similar to what you have here. He wrote his code in this place, and then he saved what he had here. And I've said it over and over again. That's not the way you write a script. You click on file, you click on new file, and then you write your script. The shell is not where you write your code. The shell is where you write code that you just want to test. Maybe you want to check something. That's what you do there. Or that's what you do there, really. And then when your script is running, it runs in the shell. So I had to comment this part out. Luckily, there was not a lot of damage. I had to comment this part out and then make the code work. And then I also see that there are a lot of things that I did that I've not heard thoughts. For instance, try and accept. I'm not sure. I think he might have gone ahead of us, but ultimately, if you want to understand more of what he did, I will put this code, then you can reach out to him. I've also not taught conditionals yet, but it was among the people that I had in the first part, so I get that maybe you already knew this stuff. So I'm going to focus on Obina's and Sheldon. So Obina's calculator is pretty straightforward. BMI calculator, enter your weight in kg, meters, and BMI, and that's it. You run the code, says enter your weight 10, when it's 1.84, and that is correct. One thing I'll probably want to point out is that when you're dealing with mathematical operations like this, you want to be careful. Obviously, this works easily, but I'm usually careful by putting stuff in brackets, right? If I didn't put in brackets, what happens is that I'm not sure whether what you're saying is width over height all squared or width over height squared. So by putting in the brackets, I know specifically what you're dividing. And the reason is not, well, there's also the reason because the computer it is easier for the computer to understand that, okay, this is first, you have to first evaluate this before you evaluate the whole thing. But also, if you give your code to a programmer, you can understand it better. Imagine if you're dealing with something more complicated, a larger equation, and you do not put brackets. What happens is that, except the programmer already knows the formula that you're dealing with, he would run into problems. All right, but if you put brackets, then the programmer can come up with the formula from your code. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
All right, so that's good. Also, one other thing I wanted to say is you rarely see values like this to be having more than 2 decimal places. And so just as a, something that will help you, if you want to round a number to 2 decimal places, you use the function called round. So basically you call round, open the bracket, put whatever number you want to round up, and then put the number of decimal places, in this case 2. So what this does is that it will round up 34.2121 to 2 decimal places, which is, so now this is what I do does. I can just go to I do and quickly test out this stuff. So let me just get this away from here. Test it out in I do. So you see that, right?
Yeah.
Good. So in this case, before you convert your BMI to string, you can first round it up 2 decimal places. That will make it fancier, right?
All right.
So when you run your code, 110.32, okay, sorry, I put in the wrong value, 32. But you see that it converts it to 2 decimal places. So
yeah,
that's that. Same thing Seun does. Seun's own.
can you please save? Sorry.
Yes.
Sorry. Can you please save that back to Google Drive, I guess. So
Or do you want me to like the
I can
previous?
look at it.
Do you want me to revert it back to your own code?
Yes, please. So I can look at it again.
No problem. I'll revert to your own code.
No.
I'm also going to upload.
No.
Don't worry, I'll upload my own solution online, and then you can compare. I don't want to edit your code.
No, I just mean I still have my code on my laptop, right? I just mean that this one you just put around and then the BMI. I just want that line, that code line. I just want to
I
get
know.
it
I'm saying
so
that because I'm going to upload this to a Google Drive and everybody's going to have access to it. So I don't want to make any edits that you didn't do. What I will do rather is that I'm going to write my own version of the assignment and then upload that. In that one, you see the round and everything. Does that make sense?
All right.
You know what? Let me even start doing that now. Let me create a folder. No, outside. Let's create a folder. Solution. I don't know where I start. Where's the old solution chapter? Move it outside the bastard. Sorry about my language.
Right. It's for the general public.
All right. So I would put in task 5 BMI .py, and then just copy your code. That's okay. Just hide it. Copy your code, and I make the changes here. I'll also put this in the brackets. That's the second one. And one other thing I would probably do is, for me, typing out my statements like this, the best way I like to do it is by using what I call formatting. So you put F, and I think I've taught you this before. Your BMI is, and you just open the brackets, and you just do that. Sorry. So the difference with this is that you don't need to convert it to a string first. Because you use this formatting, the program will automatically convert it to a string. But because you're using plus here, you have to first convert to a string. And that's because this is a string, but this is a number. And that will be an error. You can't have the string and the number together. The only way you can do that is by converting the number to a string first. So you can either use this way to print out your answer, or you can use this way to print out your answer. I think I've said this before. Simply put F at the beginning before your quotation marks like that. And then anywhere you want to put in a variable, just open curly braces, open it and close it, and then put in the variable in the middle. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
It does.
Just saying this for the first time.
What?
I'm just saying this for the first time, actually.
So make it even easier. Let's round it from there. Let's not round it there. Let's round it when we're calculating the BMI. So we don't make this one complicated unnecessarily. You get what I'm doing, right? So let's just do it. Now it's simpler, it's easier to watch. So somebody running the code will know exactly what you're doing. The only reason why you might decide that you don't want to round it up, yes, maybe if you're going to use it for calculations data, you want to get precise values. then you can decide not to round it first. So I'm not hearing anything from you. Are you getting this?
I'm following.
Yeah, I'm sure you're following, but are you getting it?
A little bit.
Okay, let me just go one more time. Then we'll clear. Did you understand the round function? True.
Yes, you said the round is to rounding to 2 decimal point. Yeah,
Because I put 2. If you want to round to 3, you place 2. Good. Now what I'm saying next is now I'm rounding it up here. What I mean by that is I calculated my BMI and then I rounded it up before storing it into the variable BMI. And the reason is because I want my code to be simple. I want it to look better. Do you understand? Now, I said the only situation where I would not round it up here is maybe somewhere along the line. I want to use the BMI to do another calculation, say times 5.7. Maybe somewhere along the line, I want to do another variable. Somewhere along after my code, I want to do another calculation here. Now, what that does is that if you do not, you know, obviously 31.233 is different from 31.23. This will give you a more precise value, but what the rounded value will give you an approximated value. So ideally, programmatically speaking or logically speaking, if you're going to use this variable again in the future, you do not want to round it first. You round it after you are sure you're not going to use it again. So that's why many people, what they do is that they just round it when they want to print it out. So they just, that's safer that way. Do you understand what I'm saying now?
Yeah.
Good. Now, this one on the other hand is, well, if you don't understand this, it's fine. You can simply just keep using your own stuff. But I'm pretty sure sometime in the future, we are going to have to use it. When that time comes, I'll teach you. Rico?
Yep.
Awesome. So I'm going to do tax 3 first before I go into tax 2 because tax 3 is a simpler one compared to tax 2. And from what I can tell, you guys did it very well. You understood the assignment and you did it pretty well. However, the only challenge I had, first of all, was with Shell's code. It was very cloggy. It was very tight. And the reason, I don't know why it was particularly tight. I think it was your approach. But first of all, if you take a look at Obina's code, you can see how coordinated, how spaced it is. It has white lines in between so that if a programmer takes this code, can understand exactly what's going on. Now, let me shock you. I didn't actually run any of your code. Like, I didn't run to test it. I just read the code and I knew that it would work. Right? I read your code and I knew that it would work. But then it was much easier to read Obina's code because it had a very nice way of being arranged. Now, I think that the reason what you're trying to do is that you're trying to add more information about your code. But now the question is information for the user or for the programmer? And let me explain those two roles first. The user is the person that uses your code. The programmer is the person, sorry, let me rephrase that. The user is the person that uses the solution. Basically, when you run your code, then there's, that's the whole interaction. That's the user. But then the programmer can be another person that says, okay, I want to build on what this person has written. And so it takes your code. Maybe it says it wants to add some more geometrical functionalities to it. It takes your code and it wants to now add more functions to it. Before he can do that, he has to first read what is already there, understand it before he does it. Now, the problem is it's going to take a programmer a lot more time to read all of this than to read this. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. Chill.
Yes.
Good. Now, I think what you're trying to do, if the information was for the user, that's the person that's going to use your code, the output of your code, then all of this information will not be necessary. Per se, you can simply shorten it to be this. And the reason why I say so is because many of the times for programs like this, your user already knows what your program is going to do. So you don't have to print out all of the information again. He already knows what he needs to do. Or just tell him, enter this, and that's all. It's like saying you open Twitter, and then Twitter starts to first give you a story about how Twitter can connect before you finally sign up. So if somebody's going to be using the output of a solution, all of this is not particularly necessary. However, if another programmer wanted to build on your code, then this might be good information that they would see, but you wouldn't use print. What you'd use is comments. So rather than this, so I'm just going to copy your code and then create a copy for myself so that I can, that's 7 Pythagorean. I don't know if I spelled that right. Sorry, I didn't give it the proper extension of UI. Okay. So what I would have done rather is I'd have just written, made it a comment as opposed to print. And to do a comment, what you do is you put an hash in front of it. Simple. So what happens is that the computer will ignore all of the comments. So when you run your code, the user will not see all of that, but the programmer that's going to use your code, when he's looking at your code, will see them, and then to be an explanation of what you are doing. Does that make sense?
All right. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, but then again, don't overload the programmer, because again, even though it's going to be helpful, you don't want to now have 200 lines of code and only 50% of it is code. The remaining 50% is comments. No, you want your comments to be precise, to be concise. And the reason is because obviously, the more lines of code you have, the larger the file size, right?
Yes.
So what that does is that you start to use up space. For something small like this, is not a problem. But when you're dealing with big projects, you don't want to start overwriting lines of code. You only put lines of code. You only put comments rather where it's necessary. For this one, I don't really think you need comments. You can just put at the top rather. So you can just put at the top and say Pythagorean theorem, blah blah blah, collects x1, x2, and calculates this. Then maybe you can put a link. Follow this link to understand more. And put a link that talks about Pythagorean theorem. Then the person can just go and read up about Pythagorean theorem, the algorithm, and then understand your code better. I don't know what I'm saying. What?
It makes perfect sense. But how do you attach a link to the code?
So this is a link, for instance. Just copy the link and paste it there.
That's all.
Yep. Remember, it's a comment. The computer is not going to do anything about it. The programmer is going to see it and is going to know what to do. He knows that this is a link. He copies it, goes to his browser, he reads up about it, then he comes back to your code, and then he now knows better what to do.
Can you attach a hyperlink? Like, for example,
this is an hyperlink.
No, what I mean by hyperlink is like, for example, you said read this, read this link or click here to read more.
Link, and then link will not be underlined.
Exactly.
No. You can't do that.
You can't do that.
It's simply just putting the website URL. That's all.
All right. Thanks.
Shehu, do you understand that?
Yes.
So your code was functional. It was good. I also like the fact that you tried to be as experiential as possible, but you need to know when information is necessary and it's not. And the reason why that's particularly important is because we're living in an age where the attention span of human being is like 6 seconds. If you waste their time with information, they will not use your application.
Okay.
Right? So that's Pythagorean theorem. I don't need to start writing the code. I didn't even test the code. I just knew it would work. I saw the functionalities and it's perfect that way. So finally, the age calculator, which is what I think Shehu didn't get, and Obina.
I scored poorly, please.
Because you had done this before with us, and I expected that you have gotten it. Truth is, I don't remember I don't remember the solution well, but I'm hoping that right now, as I start working, it will come to me. But before I go on, first now to say is your variable name is very important. That is why we did a topic on variable names. Your variable names will explain. It is easy for your programmers that's going to be reading your code to understand what you're saying. For instance, here.
Sorry. Hello.
Yeah, man.
Hi. Is my variable name not good because I felt like I did justice to that.
No, I'm coming first.
Okay.
Let me. I just made a note of it. I don't want to forget. So he did. I like the variable names here because they were precise, they were concise. I think Sean did the same thing too. His was not the worst. I would say I definitely say Obina's was much better because Obina had DXPY, and so I knew what was which and what was that. I'm not saying this wasn't wrong, this wasn't good rather, but you know, it was you introduced a whole set of stuff that I didn't really understand. But variable names itself is a very subjective part. It's not something that is objective. And what I mean by that is that it's really based on the programmer's preferences, however way you want to do it. However, because there's a community of programmers, you want to use variable names that are easy to understand. In this case, using letters, there's no way to criticize it because they are letters. You can't really complain. But I'm not going to talk about what Obina used there. I ran your code first of all. It didn't work. And then I tried to understand the code, but well, it worked. Like it ran, but the output was wrong. It wasn't what I expected. For instance, let me show you. Shane, are you with us? Oh, we've not lost you yet.
No, I'm with you.
Okay. Let me show you what I mean. So the current date is 2021, November 19th. So that means if I put in 1996, 12, that's December, 1st of December, I should still be 24 years, not 25, because I've not done my birthday yet. So it didn't work. Now, this is where I had a challenge. I was now trying, okay, let me try to understand where you had it wrong. But I wasn't understanding what these variables names meant. That's where that's where I was confused. What do you mean by age underscore year, age underscore months, age underscore day? I didn't get it. Because from what I can tell here, this looks like a condition, at least. So your variable name should probably be something that sounds like a condition. Anyway, we'll talk about that when I start to see the solution. Did you get what I meant now?
Yeah.
Okay. You have a question?
No. No.
All right. So first of all, I'll take a copy of what we've been done. Current year. First of all, I also said that all the day should be 30, not 31st, but whichever case, it's fine. All right, so I hope I remember the solution. First of all, let me get my.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Now I saw his code bet on the day. He wrote enter your date. Okay, your day of birth, 1 to 31st. Why did you put that 1 to 31st? So it can be either from 1 to 31st.
Like it's like your birthday is 26th of April. 26th will be the day of the birth.
Okay, so inputting that 1 to 31st. So if you choose any, you can choose any date from 1 to 31st, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like when you run your code, it's not particularly like you have to select one. It's just like kind of giving you an int. Just like your BMI calculator has kg in the front. It doesn't mean that if you enter something that's not kg, it will not work. It will work. But it's just to tell the user that whatever you're entering, make sure it is kg. Now, the part where you start to now, this is what we call error handling. Basically, what error handling is saying is that your input should be this way, but then the user enters it this way. How do you handle those kind of errors? Because the truth is that there are a lot of stupid users out there that will enter stupid things. So there's a path for that. We'll get there later. And in some ways, that was what Smith was trying to do here when he had the try and accept. But we'll get to that later when we start. I think it's in the try and catch. I'm not sure. I'm going to check the outline. What part we're going to be talking about that. Weirdly enough, it's not there. Weirdly enough, it's not there. I'll teach you about try and else. Is maybe after everything, because it's not so crazily important per se, but it's useful to know. But one thing I probably want to point out is that during the assignment, I mentioned that it should be 30, not 31, right? Yeah,
it's
30. Yeah. So, but either case, either ways, as long as it works, that's good. So, let me grab my notepad so that I can do some inscription. All right. Oh God. Thank you. Nice. All right, so let me just put this at the side. This at the side. And this. So I'll just focus on this guy. So I'm really hoping that I'm doing enough justice to this part. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can.
I really hope I do. I really hope I do enough justice to this, but this part is a bit tricky. All right, so we have a current here, right? And then we have, that's the current here that we have, and then we have the date of birth, which is year, month, and age. Sorry, and day, rather. Now, the first thing I want to do is I want to calculate the, let's assume this is the beginning, this is the date of birth. I want to calculate the date of birth. So, you know, we have three scales, the year, the month, and the day. Now, let's assume this is where the current day is. Current day. I'm first of all going to calculate the age up until the year before the current year. I don't know if that makes sense. So basically, whatever happened this year, we know that the person has done their birthday last year. So we can be sure that the person is at least their date of birth, the years between their date of birth and the year and last year. I don't know if that makes sense. If somebody was born in 1996 and we're currently in 2021, you know that at least the person is 2020 minus 1996, at least, which is 24. Yes. Now, whether he's 25 yet is now a different ballgame, which is dependent on whether he has done his birthday yet in that 2021. You know, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So first of all, I say the person's age is the birth year, current year minus birth year minus 1. Does that make sense?
Okay, so you're putting a minus 1 because of what you assume, like that 2020 year, that's
exactly. We're assuming that at least the year before the current year, the person has done their birthday. We're not even assuming, that's the logical thing. The year before the current year, the person has done their birthday. What I'm going to do now is now determine if they have done their birthday for the current year. This is now the next step. So this is where commenting works well. So I can say the person user has done is at least has done their birthday last year. I don't know, it depends on how you want to structure it. I don't have time to start thinking about the best way to structure it. But you want to write it in such a way that when the next person sees it, it's concise and they understand exactly what they're trying to do. So the next thing to do is determine if the person has done their birthday for the current year. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Good. Now, for this current year, how do you know if a person has done their birthday? There are two conditions. First of all, we want to first check if the month has passed. So basically, if the person was born in April and we're currently in June, and that means the person has done their birthday, right?
Yeah.
So you want to now check has done, but let me call it, let me say, I'm thinking of the best variable name to put here. Let's say birthday month is past birth month. Yes. Sorry, let me write that well. Birth month. Yes. Now, I say, is it past birth month? And the way you check that is by checking if the birth month is greater than, is less than the current month. Does that make sense? If April in this case is 4, June is 6. So if 4 is less than June, then the person has done his birthday. right?
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to do here is I want to first check if it is past the birth month. And how do I do that? I simply say, is the birth month less than the current month? That's how you check. So what happens is that it's past birth month will return either true or false, because this is a Boolean expression. Does that make sense?
Wait, sorry. What makes it a Boolean expression? Is it because of the is?
Because of this less than. You have to confirm, you can see it's like saying 6 less than 5.
True or false.
You get a Boolean value. It's different from saying 6 plus 5. This is an expression that will evaluate an answer for an integer.
Okay, okay.
Do you understand that now?
Yes. Then this code you're writing, are you asking the user is the past birth months equals to?
No. I'm trying to tell the computer that the computer should first check if.
Oh, okay. You're trying to tell the computer.
Months, yeah, that's basically what I do. You're writing code.
Okay.
Do you get it now?
Yeah.
All right. So now it's past birth months. Great. Now let's keep that aside. What if the current month is equal to the birth month? Then we now have a different situation. We now want to check if the day is less than or equal to the current day. Does that make sense? So if we're currently in November, if the person's birthday is in November, we cannot conclusively say that the person has done his birthday. We have to check the day again. So I'll now write another code that says is past day. Now what I write for is past day is basically is current day less than or equal to, no, is birthday less than or equal to current day. So in that case, if the current day is 20.
Sorry, finish up.
If the current day is 26, then as long as the birthday is less than or equal to, which means 1, 2, 3, all the way to the 26th itself, then that means that it's also a pass. The person is also doing his birthday that day. Basically, all of the days that are valid for the person doing his birthday or has done his birthday are all of the days up until the current day. So right now, this is the 19th. So that means everybody that have done their birthday this month from November 1st to November 19th have done their birthday. That's why I put an equal to. Because if you only put less than, what happens is that if I say 5 less than 5, this will give you false. Because 5 is not less than 5. 5 is equal to 5. But then if you put 5 less than or equal to 5, you're basically saying 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. But if you remove the equal to, you're saying 1, 2, 3, and 4. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Question.
Yes.
Okay, 2 questions. 1, can variable names have more than 1 underscore? Because this is past
definitely. Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. But you want to use that sparingly. You don't go write no sentence to know that score. Yeah.
Right. Secondly, this line 14 is past day. Shouldn't be is past for the variable name to be specific. Shouldn't be is past birthday. Just like it's past birth month.
Okay. Yeah. That's perfect actually. That's perfect. Birthday. Perfect. And so this will release if it's past birthday. Yeah. No.
Yeah, because we're talking about the birthday, right? Just like we talked about the birth month.
Okay, cool.
On my
Sean, do you get what I was saying here?
Yes, I know.
Obina, thank you for pointing that out. His past birthday is perfect. So we have 2 variables here now. His past birth month and his past birthday. Now this is where the trick is. So now determine if the person has done their birthday. Has done birthday is now, you know the person has done their birthday if it is past their birth month first, or so if it is past their birth month, then that's one they've done their birthday. That means If we're in November now, everybody before November have done their birthday. That's one. Or we're currently in that birthday month, which is, the current month is equal to the birthday month, the birth month, yes. And we are past, sorry, that's how you write and in other languages. And we are past the day.
Sorry, go back. How do you write on the other languages? I didn't see it.
No, I wrote double ampersand. In Java and C#, that's how I write it. But ignore that. So Python,
double what?
Double ampersand.
Oh, okay.
So it's not relevant.
That's right.
It's not relevant in Python.
Okay.
Some languages, C#, Java, Rust, you write it that way. But in Python, you write it like literal and, which is one of the reasons why Python is nice, because like you're reading a language. So this is where it's now tricky. This is precisely how you do the birthday. The person has done their birthday if it is past the birth month, one. So that means the situation where it is November, everybody before November have done their birthday. Or we are currently in that month and it is past the day. So what I've done here is I've taken a statement and converted it to an expression in code. Sorry, let me now write it in an English statement. User has done birthday if their birth month is if it's past, sorry, let me write it well. If the current month is past their birth month, or if the birth month is the current month and the current day is past their birthday. So if you wanted to explain to a monkey how to do the birthday, I doesn't know plus and times or whatever, this is how you tell them in English. What I've done is now break this into a Python code. To reiterate again, is past birth month. As a user has on their birthday, if the current month is past their birth month, the current month is past their birth month is what you have here. Now, or we have or, if their birth month is the current month, birth month is equal to current month, and the current day is past their birthday, which we've already evaluated here. Current day is past their birthday.
What do you call that double equals to say? What's the expression called again?
It's equal to.
Sorry.
It's equal to.
The double equals to
why?
Yeah, 6, x is equal to 6. This single equal to, you're basically doing an assignment. You're assigning 6 to x. Okay. But then when you say double equal to, you're comparing the value of x and 7, which is false. They're not the same. That's saying is x equal to 7. I think with some languages,
okay, double equal to is a comparison.
Yeah, it's a comparison. You have to type, Python does not do this. But in some other languages, you can use a function called is equal. So in Python, to do that, you have to do double equal to, and then put whatever you're comparing it with.
Okay.
So what I'm saying here is basically checking if the month is also equal to the current month. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah. Yes.
Are you sure? Now let's make it tricky. It's perfect, Abby. Very good. Yeah. Now, let's not even do something a bit more crazy. Instead of having 3 lines, let's put all of these things into 1 line. It's past birthday month. This is the expression we have here. I can simply replace what I have there with the expression I took from here. I can just replace it like this. I put it in a bracket, of course, so that we don't do the same mistake Obina did.
Right.
And then, sorry, bro. And it's past birthday. I copy this one and I paste it in here. So obviously I get rid of this. I open a bracket and I paste it in there. And it will work just the same. That way, I don't need to use this one. But it is fine if you want to break it down first. It is also fine. Like I said, this is actually, this, weirdly enough, this is a better code than this. Somebody that writes this, that puts everything into one line, what that person does is that it just makes it unnecessarily confusing. Another programmer. Another programmer will look this and will first have to take a minute to understand it. But if you were just simply using what you had before, the programmer will understand it straight up. So either ways, it's fine. If you know that you're the only one. Okay, so for instance, if you go online, there are a lot of let me call them libraries. So Python has, so I'm sure we use math.squareroots at some point, right? You imported maths and then you use math.squareroots. That was Python. Python has developed a function called squareroots. If you want to see how it looks like, you have to go to Python SQRT definitions. I think it should be online. Yeah. They probably have where they put it in. You see how Python wrote their code for square root. But that's not our business because we don't need to know how the code works. We just want to use the function. Now, in that case, it doesn't matter. Python does not give a shit how they write their code because nobody's going to go and take their code and start to try to change how a square root works. Just to give you a bit of an insight, the way you calculate square root is not easy. It's not simply, it's because you know that square root of 25 is 5. If I give you a big number and I tell you to find the square root without a calculator, it's going to be a big problem. There's an algorithm. I think it's there's a whole Gaussian process. Let me just do a quick Google search. Algorithms to find square roots. As simple as it is. Yeah, there's a method online. All of them have their different precision. Yeah. And many of the times they are estimates. Don't read our Wikipedia. Wikipedia will just get you confused. My point is that Python has an algorithm they use to calculate the square root. They can decide to write all of their algorithms. They can decide to write in such a way that they only use 4 lines of code. But programmers, before they understand it, they will first sweat. But they don't give a shit because nobody's going to try to be tweaking how a square root works. But something as basic as this, nobody will probably want to do that. But if you're going to work in a company where multiple people are working on the same project, and then you have different code where a lot of people collaborate on, then you probably want to be careful how you write your code. This is just something important for the future. When you're working collaboratively with people, you want to also take into consideration that they're also going to be reading your code, and you want to present it in the best way that they will understand it. So it's like a trade-off. Writing code in a way that they will understand, and at the same time, also efficiently not wasting space. And that brings it back to the initial thing that we talked about with sharing this Pythagorean theorem. It's a trade-off. Either you have to learn how to write lines of, you can put enough information at the same time, also minimize how much space you use. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Perfect. So, one other thing before I forget, I was going to mention. So it is a very common convention in programming rather, that any imports are done at the very beginning. Whatever you're importing should be at the very
beginning. Should be. Oh, okay.
That's the first thing you write.
Wait, what's if I don't know?
Huh?
Because okay.
No, go ahead.
No.
I guess you are going to ask, what if you don't know the package?
What if I was not going to use? Yes, exactly. I think yes.
Yeah. So if, for instance, you have to use a different package, you always go to the top package then. And the reason is because so for instance, now you typed in math.code here. If at some point while you're modifying your code, you needed to now use it here again, you can't actually have access to it here because you defined it here. But then you say, okay, I'm going to use it here. So you go up again and you put it again. And before you know it, you're having a lot of imports that are unnecessary. So it's usually advised that whatever you're going to use in your code, import it at the beginning. And obviously give it space. Give it space so that you understand. I'm just going to give you a quick example. I'm going to give you a quick example of what that might look like. And I like to show off the code I work on. There we are. Okay, can you see this? Guys, can you see this?
Yeah.
All right. So this is look at the lines of code here. This is 1,000 above 1,000 lines of code, and these are all the packages I use. I had to use them at the beginning. In fact, some of them I don't use them. For instance, this one, it's faded because I'm not using it in my code. So I can decide that, okay, since I'm not using it, I get rid of it. Don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Visual Studio Code has the option. It will help you fade it out so you know that you're not using it. Another example is this one. I'm not using it. I can decide to fade it out as well. So always import stuff at the beginning. That's the best way to go around it. Always import stuff at the beginning.
Question, sorry.
Yes.
What if you're on line 956 and you remember and you suddenly want to use a code, you have to go up to the top.
Yep. So with the good thing is if you are talented, let me know if you are very good at using computers, you know that the easiest way to go to the top is pressing Control Function Home. Control Home will take you directly to the top, no matter where you are in your line of the code.
Yeah.
I'm at 101. If I press Control Function Home, I'm already at the top. The only problem is if say you wanted to edit something in line 46, now went to Home. Before you go back to 46, you have to look for it. But you know, after years of programming, it will become something that you just normally do. Many of the times, so the good thing is that many of the times you will not need a lot of packages, right? If you start to need a lot of packages, then there's something wrong with your program in the first place. Many of the times you don't need a lot of packages, but you know, as much as you need, always put them at the top. If you import so many packages into one file, then it's probably an indicator that you need to break that file into multiple files. And that's what we're going to talk about object-oriented programming later. So I think that explains the age calculator.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. When you opened your code, I could see indentations.
Yeah.
Why is that?
We've not got into indentations yet because we've not started working with blocks. We call them control flows. That's our next topic, I believe.
So that indentation has its own function.
It's not like a function. It's how you write programs. It's what we're doing next under control flows. It's how you write programs. We'll talk about that when we get to the next topic. But we've not had the opportunity to talk about it because everything we've been doing so far has not required indentation. But the next set of topic we're doing will require it. So we can bring up the questions again.
All right.
Any more questions?
Well, that import.maths,
yes,
is it only for Python or you can do it for other languages too?
So again, just to reiterate, Python has its way of doing things. Okay. For many languages, I think it's conventional for them to import at the beginning. Actually, for most languages I've worked with, you always import at the beginning. It's just a general program convention. However, how they import is now different. But Python uses imports, but I think, excuse me, some other languages like Rust uses there's a keyword they will use like that. And if you remember, if you watched the video I put about Python programming, yeah, I think introductory materials, I think. I made a video explaining these things. Oh shit. Oh, that's true. That's true. I never talked about it with you guys. But we'll talk about that later. If you watch this man's video, the ADX video I talked about, he talked about something called, in the languages section, he talked about something called I've forgotten. Keywords. Well, try and watch this video again. Basically, what he's saying is that each language has three essential things that determine the structure of the language: syntax, keywords, and semantics, or something like that. And so with Python, the keyword you use for import is called import. But with another language, the keyword they will use will be different. Do you understand? In Python, the syntax for importing something is to do import maths. In another language, the syntax might be used and then put apostrophe, maths like that. But at the end of the day, the whole thing that we're doing in this class is to teach you the syntax and the semantics and the keywords that you're going to be using to write programs. That's why I said at the beginning that I'm not going to teach you how to think. That's not something I can do. What I can teach you is you have the idea in your mind, and then what are the keywords, the semantics, and the syntax? How do you write that idea into a Python program. That's what this whole course is about. Does that make sense? That's essentially what programming is about. How do you convert your ideas to code so that the computer can run it? That is what programming is about. Depending on the language, if you're using Java, you're using JavaScript, you're using C#, you're using C#, this C# will tell you that if you're thinking that if this is what you are trying to do, this is how you do it in C#. It will be different from how you do it in Python. It will be different from how you do it in Java. But at the end of the day, what programming is teaching you is that thing in your mind, how do you write it in this language? That is why I always say that if you know one language, it's usually easy for you to know other languages. And the reason is simply because although they are different, they are not so different from each other. The way you write them is different, but the general structure is almost the same. The way you think through your problems is almost the same. And that's why if you successfully know how to write Python, I can give you another problem in C#, and you figure it out. Does that make sense? Yeah. Good. Any more questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because Sean talked about imports. Math. I was gonna. He asked a question about this import math, and I was gonna ignore it, but now that he's just here, let me just ask it. Okay. So when you import math, can you do cube roots?
Depends.
No.
Sorry, go ahead.
Like find the square, like just like we have maths.square roots. Can we have maths.cube root or something like that?
So I already said that this math was provided by Python, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to know what is available for you to use, just do a simple Google search, math class Python. Now, I would not advise it because it can get very complicated fast. They will show you all the functions that you can use. You might not understand this, but an easy way for you to do it is just, if you're using Visual Studio Code, is do math dot. To show you a list of all the things that are there. If you try typing cube and you don't see anything, then it's likely because the math class that Python has given you does not do cube root. Do you understand?
What if the code you're writing? What if the code you're writing wants you to find the cube root of a number?
What if I wanted you to find the cube root of a number? Is that what you're saying?
What if the code you're writing
wanted to?
Yeah, what's the code you're writing?
That is an interesting question. And it's a question for later, but interesting question nonetheless. First of all, this is where the statement "do not reinvent the wheel" is a very popular programming statement. Do not reinvent the wheel. Yeah, I think. Let me write programming in front. That it's easier. Why is the story exactly? Now, what basically that means is that somebody somewhere has already written a code to calculate the cube root. It's just that you don't have access to it. A simple Google search will show you how to write cube roots in Python. There's a popular site called Stack Overflow. If you know programmers, you would have heard them say this a lot. Stack Overflow is like a community of programmers that ask questions and then all of them answer. So this is somebody that asks the question, how do I find the cube roots? You see people who give different answers. This is the only point I would advise is when you can start to understand Python code. And this does not come in until you finish the syllabus, like I mentioned. But don't go to Stack Overflow and be looking for code. Because if you don't understand this code, it will just waste your time. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. Essentially, there are people that have written all of these things already. Like programmers are many everywhere. I'm almost certain whatever you're thinking about, like, okay, how do I do this in Python? Somebody has either done 80% of it or 100% of it. Now, the question is, how do you make that particular thing accessible to your own code? That's something we're going to talk about in the future. But for now, be rest assured that everything I'm going to give you is not something that will require you to go and be learning another looking for somebody else's solution. Does that make sense?
I think I saw that part when I wanted to do this calculator. But I was not understanding it. That's why I didn't want to do it.
Precisely. I don't want to go in online.
I don't understand what I'm doing too.
You will get lost. Even now, as talented as let me not blow my own ones. As with all the years of experience that I have, there are some Stack Overflow pages that I go to and I'm like, what the fuck? Let me show you how crazy it is. Stack Overflow. I think I cleared my issue recently. So even if the best programmer, this was just from August 2021, the best programmers, all of us use Stack Overflow because we cannot keep all of these things in our fucking mind. We cannot remember how to calculate the cube root every time or how to do something every time. So we go to Stack Overflow. We go to there are other programming communities out there. I think another one is Gig for something. I'm not sure. But once you start to program and you start to communicate with the community, all of these stuff will become available for you. But for now, I don't want you to join the community if you don't understand how that community works yet. If you are still learning Python and you want to join the community of programmers, they will just discourage you. Don't worry, I will recommend that you don't Google how to write a program in Python online unless you're ready to get lost.
Sorry.
Yes.
Okay, the story also in the fact that it will be too complicated.
To be way too complicated. Way too complicated. But I'm not saying it's not going to be impossible. In fact, you get all of these things come with experience. The more you code, the better you get at it. But for now, see, we're done with at least week 10, 4 loops, all those basic stuff. Don't go online and look for solution. You are not doing yourself a lot of good by doing that. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
All right. Does anybody have any more questions?
Good.
Sure, how about you?
No.
So what? Sharon there?
Yeah, I tried to.
They're good, right?
Yes.
Okay. Great. So I'm going to upload the next set of topic, which is I think I already talked about that, which is
sorry.
Yes.
Sorry. Your code, this bet age calculator extended. Are you going to upload it? Because I don't.
Yes. I'll upload everything.
That's the Google Drive.
Yes.
All right.
So that's pretty much all of the task. Next topic is control flow. That's what you do with if and else. It's going to be a very interesting topic.
Wahala.
When I upload the materials, it should be easy for you guys. So I really want to appreciate all of you for joining in, and any other person that might watch this video later. I'm not particularly optimistic about it, but let's see how it goes. Now there's something I wanted to really talk to you guys about. Time is not on our side, so I'll probably make it brief as much as I can. There's a new wave of technology that's going around that I'm not somebody that knows how to identify patterns or trends rather in technology. Yeah. People say this is the trending thing now. I'm not somebody like that. I'm a very optimistic person in the sense that whenever I'm doing something, I usually like to believe that it's going to work out. And so if there are new trends, I'm not particularly open to it. But recently, I've stumbled upon a couple of things that I would say is likely going to reshape the future. It's basically reshaping the future as we speak. I have a friend, his name is Ola, and he will tell me countless times that the internet is being rewritten right now. And I think let's have this conversation when we're not in a rush. Because right now I'm in a rush and I don't want you guys to skip out on anything. But basically what I'm trying to get to is that there's going to be a need for really talented programmers in a specific field. I'm not even sure if they'll be calling them programmers anymore. But there's going to be a need for talented skills that will be based on programming, which will now be a bit more advanced. And I feel that everybody that has the opportunity should take advantage of it. But you can't take advantage of it if you don't know basic programming. Sure. Basically to encourage you. It's basically to encourage you to learn this shit. The good thing is that when trends start like this, they take a couple of years before they become solid. But you have the opportunity. If you really want to make this thing a big deal for you, you want to make money off of it. I'm not guaranteeing it, obviously, but there's a trend that there's going to be a lot of money there, and I don't want you guys to miss out on it. So hopefully, maybe when next we meet, maybe when we're doing a Q&A, you keep your questions to a minimum so I can talk about this a bit more. But for now, I don't want to extend it too much. I don't want to rush it. I don't want you guys to miss out anything. And rest, and I'll pick up on it later. Just make sure you do your programming thing, live your life, eat healthy, drink water, exercise, blah, 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 blah.
Okay.
All right. So, thank you for joining in. I'll upload the materials tonight. I'll upload the code to the group tonight. I'll upload the recorded version to YouTube tonight as well, or maybe tomorrow morning. I'll upload the materials for the next topic tomorrow or tonight, no guarantee. And then we can talk some more about the next steps. Sounds good?
Yeah.
Perfect. When are we anticipating the next?
We'll chat on the group likely, because right now the next step for me is I need to first now filter who's going to be with us and who's not going to be with us anymore. That will make it easier for us to move forward. So likely the next conversation we're having of the group will be on Sunday, but it's likely we'll do it tomorrow. Whichever case, I'll let you guys know.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right. Good night, guys.
Good night,
bro. Good night.